right, let's start. In this topic, what we're going to be doing is converting numbers. So let me just put that here, converting numbers. Right, so just move that into this position here. And then I'll put the objective for today. So the numbers that we're looking at today, the types of numbers that we're looking at today is fractions, percents, and decimals. So we're going to have the objective as being able to convert among fractions, percents, and decimals. That's the objective of today's lesson. Shucks. Right, so that's the objective of today's lesson. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is fractions. And before we do anything like converting a fraction into a percentage or converting it into decimal, I want to talk about proper and improper fractions. So the first part here that we're going to talk about is fractions. So I'm going to say fractions. Right? So we have two types of fractions. We have proper fractions. I'm going to write that over here, proper. Which can be 2/3, and another form that is a proper fraction, or most of the time they would call it a mixed number fraction. Mixed number fraction is something like 2 and 2/3. Now, if it is that we have to convert that to something called an improper fraction, what we have to do is, let me just write this over a little bit so that it can look a little bit neater. What we have to do is multiply by the denominator and we add the numerator. So 2 by 3 is 6. I'll just put a 6 here. And I'll put it in white actually. I'll put 6. Sorry, 2 by 3 is 6 plus 2 is 8. So we have 8 divided by 3. And you can think about it like this, right? If I have 2 whole pieces and then 2/3, then how many pieces altogether do I have? Right? So if I have 2 whole pieces, so let's say I take this here, 2 whole pieces, right? That's my 2 whole pieces there. And then I have another piece where I break them up. Let me just take that off. Right. So I have this piece here, right? I'm breaking this whole piece up into 3 pieces. I'm breaking this whole piece up into 3 pieces, and I have 2 of 3 pieces here already. So I'm gonna just take off this part of the circle, right? So that's the 2/3. So this is my 2/3. This is my 1 whole. This is my 2 wholes here, right? So basically 2 wholes. So basically what I'm saying, when I convert a mixed number fraction into an improper fraction, what I'm saying is how many pieces, in this case 3, how many pieces of 3 do I have? So I'm going to break up these 2 whole pieces into 3 parts. So this breaks up into 3, this breaks up into 3, 2 by 3 is 6, that's why we multiply by the denominator. And then we add 1, 2, so that's how we get the 8 here. Right? That's all we're doing when we convert from a mixed number fraction to an improper fraction. Now, the improper fraction and the proper fraction over here is the ones that you would like to use when you're doing any of the operations, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. It's easier to use this and this form rather than this form. Don't get me wrong, it's not that you can't. Some people can and they don't find it confusing. But if you do find it confusing, convert it into either this form or this form and work with it. All right? All right, so now that we get that out of the way, let's talk about converting fractions into decimals. So we're looking at fractions to decimals. Fractions to decimals. All right? And to convert a fraction to a decimal, all you really need to do is divide your numerator by your denominator. Let me just make sure you know what a numerator and denominator is. The one on the top is the numerator, and the one on the bottom is called the denominator. Alright? So to convert, all you need to do is just simply do your division. So let's say, for example, we have 3 divided by 4, or 3/4 I should say, then it means 3 divided by 4. And you already did that decimal conversion there, 3 divided by 4. Let's do that now. So 3 divided by 4. All right, so 4 into 3. 4 into 4 is 1, so I'm just going to put that 1 here. And 3 divided by 4 is 0. You can't get any parts there, so I'm going to say 0. Put a decimal point, since there's a decimal point existing here. Put the 0, and then I put the 3 here because it's 3 remainder after 3 divides by 4. And then we're looking at 30 divided by 4, which is 7. 4s are 28. So we put a 7 here, and then a 2 remaining over here. And then 20 divided by 4 is 5, so I'm putting a 5 here. So this here, and let me just write this equal sign properly, right, is equal to 0.75. So as a fraction, it's 3/4, and as a decimal, it is 0.75. Now, it's very simple to convert from a decimal into a percentage, right? All we need to do is just shift the decimal point 2 places to the right. So let's say fraction to decimal, fraction to decimal. What we have to do is write it here. We're gonna convert the fraction into a decimal and shift the decimal point 2 places to the right. Okay, so let me just write that in white over here. Right, so let's say for example we have the 3/4 that we just wrote, and we converted that 3/4 into 0.75 as the decimal. So this is in the fraction form, and this is equal to 0.75 in the decimal form. And then when I want to do it in the percentage form, I just need to take that decimal form and shift it 1, 2 places to the right, and I will get my answer of 75%. Now, all you have to realize is that when you're doing percentages, you're breaking up something into 100 parts, and we'll talk more about that later. So if it is that we have 0.75 of 100 parts, right, if we break that up into 100 parts, we just multiply by 100, we'll get that percentage at the end there. So either way, so 3/4 multiplied by 100%, there's another way you can look at it, and you'll get your 75%. So either from your fraction or your decimal, you could convert to percentage very easy. All right, so fraction to, ooh, that's the wrong thing, fraction to decimal, fraction to percent. All right, so fraction to percent. So we have the fraction to decimal and then fraction to percent. All right, so you either take the fraction and multiply it by 100 with the percent sign, and when you do this multiplication that you have here, like any other fraction that you would do, you would say, okay, 4 into this 1, 4 into 125, then 3 by 25 is 75, and then I put this percentage symbol here, 75%. Or I can convert it to a decimal and then multiply that decimal by the same 100%, or just shift the decimal point 2 places to the right, and I will be able to get this. All right. Next thing we have to do is we have to be able to convert what? So I did fractions to decimals, I did fraction to decimals, I did fraction to percentage. Now I need to do decimals to fractions. Yeah, let's do decimal to fractions. So decimal to fractions. Right? So decimal to fractions is very simple. To convert from a decimal to a fraction, you write the decimal as a fraction with a denominator of 1, and then multiply the numerator and denominator by 10 until you have a whole number. right? Simplifying, and then you simplify the fraction if it is necessary. So let's say, for example, you know what? Let me give you a little note on that what I just said so that you can see it when it is I'm doing it. Right? So to convert a decimal to a fraction, you write the decimal as a fraction with a denominator of 1, then multiply the numerator and denominator by 10 until you have a whole number in the numerator. Simplify the fraction after if necessary. Alright, so let me just do that example there really quick and you see what I have, what I'm talking about. Alright, let's say for example, I have, let's go back with that 0.75 that I had there before. Right? Let's say I had 0.75. Now I am going to write it as a fraction over 1. Right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 10 until I have a whole number in the numerator part. So I'm going to multiply the top by 10 and I'm going to multiply the bottom by 10. So this here is going to give me 7.5 over 10. And then I'm going to do it again because I still have a decimal on the top. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 10. So multiply this by 10, multiply this by 10. And then what I will get is 75 over 100. And now I can reduce it because I have a whole number on the top. So 75 divided by 25 is 3, and 75 and 100 divided by 25 is 4. So we have 3 quarters, right? So 3 quarters. Notice that's the same exact fraction that you get right back here again. Okay, yeah, that's it. Let's go down now to the next topic. No, I did decimals to fractions. Now I need to go back from decimal to percentages. Now, it's the same exact thing here that you would follow. It's just that you'd be given a number in this form and then you just shift the decimal point. So convert the fraction to decimal and shift the decimal point 2 places to the right. All I need to do now is just shift the decimal point 2 places to the right. I just need to do this section of the work. Shift the decimal point 2 places to the right. And that will take care of my conversion from decimal to percentage. So let's see, decimal, change that, decimal to percent. All right, so let's go from a decimal to percent. So let's say for example we have well, again 0.75 as you can see, or let's do on this one actually. Let's say 0.62. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift it 2 places to the right, and I will get 62%. Or I can just simply say 0.62 multiply by 100 with a percentage symbol, and I will get 62%. And that's conversion for decimal to percentage. All right. So we did decimal to percentage, and we did percentage to decimal yet. We did anything with percentages? No, I did fraction to decimal, fraction to percent. Then decimal to fraction, decimal to percent. So let's go from percent now. So let's say percent to decimal first. And that's very easy. So what we did is we shift the decimal point, and I should really put a note here. We just put a quick note over in the corner here. So we shift the decimal point 2 places to the right. Right? So we shift the decimal point 2 places to the right. to get this. So that means if I want to go the other way, I will shift the decimal point 2 places to the left. Right? And another thing I can say is that I can divide by 100% instead of the other option, which is multiply by 100%. All right. So let's go down here and do this example over here. So the example is to go from, let's say, 62%, right? 62% divided by 100%, and this will cancel off with this. And then 62 means 2 decimal places, so we get 0.62. All right. And then we want to convert from percentage to fraction. This here is all you have to do when you're converting from percentage to fraction. All right. Percent to fraction. If we're doing percent to fraction, then again, example, 62% divided by 100%, and then all I do now is I just cancel and reduce. All right, so I can divide this by 2. If I divide this by 2, it will be 31, and if I divide it by 2, it will be 50. So I have 31 over 50, and that's the fraction. Let's do the 75% as well, so you can see what I'm talking about. So 75% divided by 100%, cancel the percentage symbol. 25 into 75 is 3. 25 into 100 is 4, and you'll be able to get that. Okay, so now you know how to convert among your percentage, your fractions, and your decimals.